Sister wives. Maddie Brown reveals that Kody's actions were disturbing and erratic, which led to her severing her relationship with him. Within the realm of reality television, there are not many families who have attracted as much attention, criticism, and controversy as the Brown family from the show Sister Wives. Over the course of more than a decade, the polygamous household that Kody Brown is the leader of has been the subject of widespread media attention. Fans have been tuning in to see the dynamics of his four wives, Mary, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn, as well as the children they have together. Although the show initially presented a picture of a contemporary family that was unorthodox in nature, over the course of time, cracks have begun to appear in the family unit. Kody's relationships with his wives, as well as the relationships among the women themselves, have been increasingly strained, which has resulted in heated disagreements, emotional upheaval, and discoveries that have startled both fans and members of Kody's family. During the most recent seasons, one of the most major events that has taken place is the disconnection that has taken place between Kody and a number of his adult children, most notably his daughter Maddie Brown Brush. Maddie Brown, who has always been one of the more outspoken and independent members of the Brown family, has recently become public about her views against her father. Maddie has always been one of the siblings in the Brown family. Maddie has revealed the reasoning for her decision to cut off communication with Kody through a series of public comments and social media posts. She has also discussed the alarming and erratic conduct that she witnessed from Kody. In this glimpse into Maddie Brown's life, we take a look at her rise. Alongside her brothers, Maddie Brown, who is the daughter of Kody Brown, and Janelle Brown, who is his second wife, spent her childhood in the spotlight. Maddie has developed into a mature and self-assured woman throughout the course of her life. She has made her own path along the way, and she and her husband, Caleb Brush, have established a family of their own. As a young adult, Maddie has managed to keep a mainly positive connection with her father. Viewers have been able to observe her transition from childhood to maturity, which is frequently in contrast to the experiences of some of her siblings who have battled more with the complex dynamics of the family. During the course of the previous seasons of Sister Wives, Maddie was shown as a daughter who was both supportive and loyal to Kody. Her awareness of her father's relationships with each of his wives and the function that her mother performed within the wider family unit gave the impression that she was willing to tolerate the polygamous family structure. However, as time went on, Maddie's impression of Kody's actions and leadership as the patriarch of the family began to show signs of deterioration. The manner in which Maddie responded to Kody's increasingly erratic behavior throughout the course of the most recent seasons was one of the most obvious indications that her perspective on her father was shifting. The patriarch, who had previously positioned himself as the head of a harmonious family, started exhibiting signs of emotional instability, poor decision-making, and a growing amount of self-centeredness, all of which would eventually cause the relationships he had with some of his children to become strained. The unsettling behavior of Kody, including his irrational behavior and his lack of accountability. The decision that Maddie made to put some distance between herself and Kody did not occur overnight. Kody's behavior can be described as a sequence of alarming and irregular actions that he demonstrated over the course of time. These behaviors created the seeds of estrangement. The failure of Kody to accept responsibility for his conduct was one of the primary complaints that Maddie and other members of the family expressed. Because he was the patriarch of a vast and complicated family, Kody's judgments had an impact on everyone around him, and the fact that he refused to take responsibility for his errors produced a great deal of stress. The disregard that Kody showed toward his children is one of the most prominent examples of the problematic behavior that he exhibited. Kody, who was the father of 18 children, was responsible for providing various forms of support to each of his offspring, including emotional, physical, and financial assistance. In spite of this, it became increasingly obvious over the course of the years that Kody was failing to fulfill his responsibilities as a father. Maddie, in particular, voiced her annoyance at the fact that Kody was unable to be present for significant occasions in her life, as well as the lives of her siblings. The manner in which Kody treated his children was frequently dismissive, particularly in situations in which they expressed concerns or disagreed with him. The fact that Kody would interrupt, disparage, or even ignore the worries of his children, particularly those who had grown into adulthood, was especially obvious during family gatherings and conversations. This was especially true for those children who had reached adulthood. This lack of empathy and care was something that Maddie, who had always been close to her father when she was younger, began to notice, and it was one of the factors that contributed to her decision to cut that relationship off. The manner in which Kody treated his wife is yet another evidence of his terrible behavior. Kody's relationships with each of his wives have been more strained over the course of the most recent seasons, and his behavior toward them has become increasingly erratic. In spite of the fact that he appeared to expect more from his wives in terms of devotion and attention, he did not demonstrate the same amount of emotional involvement in return. A significant factor that most certainly contributed to Maddie's disillusionment with her father was the fact that she was a witness to her father's irregular and frequently brutal treatment of her mother, Janelle, and the other spouses. It was during the infamous COVID-19 season that Kody's behavior reached a boiling point. During this time, his behavior toward his wives and children grew even more chaotic. Because of Kody's lack of emotional intelligence and his inability to adapt to the new problems, several members of the family were brought to the edge of suicide as a result of the epidemic, which revealed profound flaws in the structure of the family. Despite the fact that Kody insisted that his wives and children adhere to stringent procedures for the sake of his health, he failed to apply the same standards to himself, which resulted in allegations of hypocrisy and selfishness. When it came to Maddie in particular, it was challenging to reconcile the way in which her father treated her with his refusal to accept responsibility for his actions. As Kody became more preoccupied with his own wants and needs, Maddie began to view him as a terribly damaged guy. His behavior was not only upsetting, but it also caused emotional harm to people who were in his immediate vicinity. The choice that Maddie made to disconnect Kody. The moment when Maddie understood that Kody's activities were having a long-lasting and detrimental effect on her emotional well-being was the moment that she reached her breaking point. Despite the fact that Maddie had always been a daughter who was supportive, she soon found herself fatigued as a result of Kody's destructive conduct. Maddie disclosed in an emotional message on Instagram that she had reached a breaking point in her relationship with her father, and that the choice to cut off communication with him was not taken on a whim. Maddie stated that the choice was partly influenced by Kody's failure to address the harm that he had caused and his persistent refusal to admit his part in the dysfunctional state of the family. In her article, she expressed a profound sense of annoyance with her father's erratic behavior, notably his inability to put the requirements of his children and family ahead of his personal inclinations. Additionally, Maddie brought attention to the emotional toll that Kody's behavior had done on her own mental health that she had experienced. She revealed that she had been carrying the responsibility of attempting to maintain a positive relationship with her father for a number of years, despite the fact that his behavior had become increasingly emotionally distant and toxic. It was in part for the purpose of safeguarding Maddie's own mental well-being and creating a healthier atmosphere for herself and her immediate family that she made the decision to put some distance between herself from their relationship. In addition, Maddie's separation from Kody was a manifestation of a more general phenomenon that many viewers of Sister Wives had observed over the course of the past few years: the growing isolation that exists between Kody and his children, particularly the adult ones. Several of Kody's children, including Maddie's brothers, had voiced similar displeasure with their father's actions, and some of them had even distanced themselves from him long before Maddie made her decision public. Maddie's decision was made public. Given Maddie's status within the family and her history of being one of the more visible and vocal children, her decision to come out about her estrangement from Kody carried a great amount of weight regardless of the circumstances. The reaction of the family and the backlash from the public. Shockwaves were sent through the Sister Wives fanbase as a result of Maddie's choice to break off Kody and publicly expose his horrible behavior. Admirers responded in droves to the news, with many expressing their support for Maddie's choice. The revelation caused a deluge of emotions from admirers. The unpredictable behavior that Kody displayed on the show had been noticed by a large number of people who had become more unhappy with the way that he treated his wife and children. Therefore, Maddie's choice to speak up struck a chord with those individuals who had been quite critical of Kody's behavior for a number of years. For his side, Kody did not provide a public response to Maddie's words. Nonetheless, rumors indicated that he was devastated by her decision. Kody did not respond directly to Maddie's statements publicly. Whether or not Kody completely understood or appreciated the reasons for Maddie's choice, as well as whether or not he was willing to take responsibility for the role he played in the deteriorating dynamics of the family, is not evident. The outcry from the general population against Kody was speedy and brutal. Fans pointed to his behavior on the show as evidence of his shortcomings as a father and husband, accusing him of being manipulative, self-centered, and emotionally negligent. They also point to the fact that he was emotionally inattentive. Others expressed their dissatisfaction with the fact that Kody had not taken a greater amount of responsibility for the disintegration of his family. Instead, he had prioritized his own wants and demands while disregarding the psychological well-being of those of his closest friends and family members. Maddie, on the other hand, appeared to be unwavering in her choice. By means of interviews and posts on social media, she made it very obvious that the decision to sever her relationship with Kody was not an easy one, but rather one that she considered to be essential for the sake of her own mental health, as well as the mental health of her family. Despite the fact that she continued to love her father, she highlighted that she could not continue to maintain a connection with someone whose behavior was harmful and destructive. Taking steps forward, rebuilding and restoring health. It is not apparent what the future holds for the Brown family, despite the fact that Maddie's choice to cut off Kody represented a crucial turning point in their relationship. It appears that Maddie is concentrating on getting better and moving on with her own life and family so that she may move ahead. In addition to continuing to raise her own children alongside her husband, Caleb, she has established a prosperous profession as a social media influencer. The fact that Maddie has made the decision to put her own health and happiness first, even if it means sacrificing her connection with Kody, is evidence of her development and maturation as an individual. Kody is confronted with a sharp reminder of the consequences that have resulted from Maddie's decision, as well as the widening distance that exists between him and some of his children.